Americans, and he's giving them to illegal aliens. Now, I'll grant they came across as kids. Okay? These aren't the people that snuck across on their own, theoretically. But still, he's firing red-blooded Americans to give these jobs to non-Americans. Make that 321 reasons to impeach this SOB. It's criminal. Also criminal. $9 million has already been allocated. Another $4.2 million is getting ready to be allocated. This is money being set aside to provide legal counsel. Taxpayer money being used for legal counsel for almost 4,000 illegal children that have streamed across the border this year during Obama's open border campaign. Now, everybody on U.S. soil has a right to an attorney, granted, whether they're here legally or not. But they don't have a right to legal counsel on the taxpayer dollar. If it's going to be paid for, let it be paid by some of the organizations like the people that are advocating the open borders, like people that are advocating taking California from Mexico. Let them get it from Mexico. Let Mexico provide the money for the lawyers. Why are we paying taxpayer dollars for the U.S., for the United States, to hire lawyers to defend against the United States prosecutors? We shouldn't be spending money on the prosecutors because these people shouldn't be here. Take the money out of Obama's salary. Take it out of his IRA. He's the one that made it possible for all these people to be here. Now we're doubling down. We're paying for lawyers on both sides. And 90% of the people that were supposed to show up, 90% of the people that came across the border in the last couple of months, or in the last several months, for the last 3 months, 90% of the people that were supposed to show up for deportation hearings did not show. When they get the notice in the mail, they call that the run notice. It's time to move. They don't show up. I told you they wouldn't show up. Everybody knows they won't show up. But Obama continues to let them in, puts them on a bus with no documentation, and lets them go to any city they want to go to. Obama's open border is a disaster for America. And now we have Border Agent Art Del Cueto, who heads the National Union for Border Patrol Agents in Arizona. He states that the intel we have is hard evidence. It's very hard evidence. It's pictures. It's debriefings of individuals. We know that we have terrorists that have infiltrated the homeland from Mexico. It is not a possibility for them to come here. It is a fact that they have. Conservative lawmakers like Ted Cruz have warned about potential Islamic, ISIS, so forth, activity along the border. Now it is here. Border Agent Art Cueto says, first and foremost, Washington should resolve to make border security a top priority rather than an afterthought. We have to secure the border, folks. Stay on them. If people are running for office in the next month and a half, if they're not going to commit to a very, very, very high priority on the front lines on the border, we must not vote for them. Oh, let's see. Coming up on a break, but let's get this one in. Oh, let's save that one for after the break. That's insane. That's going to go on for a little bit. It's absolutely nuts what's happening. We had another incident this week with the White House. We had a man go over the fence, get all the way into the White House up to the second floor. He had a knife on him. A few weeks earlier, President Obama had been ushered into the elevator by not at the White House. This is at some event. Ushered into the elevator by Secret Service. He was on the elevator with a private contractor that was serving as a security guard. This guy had a knife and a gun on him, and he was a felon. The Secret Service is such shambles right now that even Elijah Cummings, who's an apologist for everything leftist in this country, even he said this lady has to go. Nancy Pelosi said, if Mr. Cummings thinks she should go, I subscribe to his recommendation. And today, Julia Pearson has resigned. Now, is this a one-up thing? No. We've had the Health and Human Services Secretary resign. That was a female. We've had Lois Lerner resign. That was a female. Now this one here, is he picking females just because they're females and not because they're qualified? It sounds like your typical racial allocation thing. And it's a shame. The women are all, and Hillary Clinton. So 4 out of 4 women, I think, have been thrown under the bus or fallen on their own swords. Folks, stay with us. We got a lot more coming up. We'll be right back.
Tom O'Halloran, holding the line against tyranny from Washington, D.C.
I am America. One voice, united we stand. I am America. One hope to heal our land. There is still work that must be done. I will not rest until we've won. I am America.
Welcome back. This is the Wednesday night edition of Patriot Radio with Tom O'Halloran. I am he. If you missed it last night, we have the Tuesday night edition. See how this is going? On Fridays, please join us. We do Jihad on America, where we talk about the Islamists in America, who they are, what they want, and why you should be afraid. Now, we're just before the break, we're talking about Obama, what a colossal failure he is. I got one more little piece on him, and we're going to move on. I could actually do week after week of nothing but Obama. And I'm not a Rand Paul fan. You got to know that, okay? Some of the stuff that he says is right on the money. Some of it, not so much. I understand. Well, take what I'm saying with this next one with a grain of salt, because the man, in all likelihood, is going to be running for office in 2016. But he spoke up this week in a rather powerful speech. He says, if the president says that Congress won't act, I must. That sounds like what you hear from a third world autocrat. It doesn't sound like someone who believes in a republic and a rule of law. If Congress won't act, I will? Congress is too messy for him. Democracy is too messy. So he's going to go ahead and do whatever the hell he wants. Paul didn't limit his critique to Obama's Expanded War Powers Act, but he says, that worries me, and it should worry all of us. And it hasn't been just with war powers. It's been with immigration. It's been with health care. He's acted outside the law, and basically we have a constitutional confrontation now between an overbearing, arrogant executive who doesn't believe in the law and a Congress who hasn't stepped up to enforce the law. This guy may end up getting my vote yet. He says a lot of the right stuff, and then he goes and calls the illegals migrant or undocumented aliens. He waffles between being right on the money and wrong answer. Okay, good column online this week. The Labor Department's expected to report the economy added 215,000 jobs in September. About half is what is needed each and every month to bring unemployment down from the pre-financial crisis levels. The official unemployment act is 6.1%, but we all know that's not a real number. The jobless rate is likely closer to 22%. If you take a look at the underemployed, if you take a look at the people that have dropped out of the labor force, it's higher than it has ever been. Now, there are 5 factors that are slowing growth and making jobs scarce. Poorly enforced trade agreements. U.S. consumers and businesses are spending, but too many of the dollars go abroad to pay for Chinese goods and for Mideast misguided energy policies. Washington has chosen to outsource, not reduce, environmental risks associated with petroleum development by curtailing production off the Atlantic, off the Pacific, the Gulf Coast, and Alaska. Safely redeveloping those resources along with prudent conservation would slash oil imports to zero and create millions of jobs. But he won't do it because it would tick off his loony leftist base. Burdensome government regulations and taxes. For my money, this is one of the absolute worst. U.S. business regulations are more costly than necessary. And it's to protect consumers and accomplish environmental goals. It has nothing to do with business. It has to do with the greenies. The environment is what's important to Obama, not the economy, not the well-being of the farmers in California's Central Valley, where he turned off the water and let hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland go to dust, all to save a 1-inch fish. Corruption and monopolies. Whereas deregulation was a theme of the Reagan-Clinton era, today's leaders appear not to value a vibrant private sector. They offer special privileges that permit Wall Street banks, cable companies, medical insurers, and rural hospitals and pharmaceutical companies and the like to monopolize markets and to gouge consumers in exchange for big campaign contributions and lucrative job offers after the officials leave office. And finally, disincentives to work. Poorly run universities, immigration. In recent decades, we've seen substantial expansion of public benefits and the discouragement of work through the Earned Income Credit, Social Security Disabilities Program, Medicare drug benefits, Medicare, Obamacare, student grants, loans, EBT cards, you name it. It doesn't pay to get a job and go to work when you can make more money sitting on your butt playing Nintendo, using your EBT cards to buy pot and crack. It's a shame what's come of America. It's an absolute shame. Obama has hurt America economically. He's hurt America with our allies. He's insulted our allies. England, Israel. He's cozied up to our enemies, who are still our enemies. They still want to kill us. They laugh at him. Look at Putin. He tried to suck up to Putin early on with that reset button. And now Putin does as he pleases. He ignores all of Obama's red lines. All of our enemies, Iran, sticking their thumb in his eye. They don't listen, they don't fear him, and they don't respect him. He overthrew an ally, Mubarak from Egypt. Granted, he was a dictator, but for 40 years he kept the peace. 40 years he kept the Muslim Brotherhood, known terrorist organization. He kept them out of Egypt completely. He kept the peace, protected Israel from the Arabs around him that wanted to kill, to wipe them off the map. Obama upset the apple cart and instilled the Muslim Brotherhood as the president, as the leaders, as he did in Libya, as he did in Syria, Libya. He's doing everything he can to ruin America abroad and here in the homeland, putting more and more people on welfare, on disability. In Columbia University, he taught the Cloward-Piven policy. These are two professors in Columbia that advocated overthrowing the system being capitalism. You overburden the system by getting so many people on the system that it can't sustain itself. And he did exactly that. He forced banks to give loans to people that didn't have jobs or had small jobs.